Are we on? Yes, we are.
All right. So what are you singing about it?
I'm singing because Roma's the only Italian team that won this week. Thank God.
You should take some voice lessons.
Gee, can you sing it better?
Well, I can sing a lot better, but we're not here to sing. We're here to talk.
And dance.
You sing a sad song right now.
Like what a sad song. There is no sad song.
Can I tell a story for everybody that's listening to the podcast right now? We said we were going to do an emergency pod after the last Italian team played. Antonio responded, yes, I'm going to be there. Mike, yes, I'm going to be there. Yes, I'm going to be there. My dad, I'm not available. Peter, not available. Then all of a sudden, Peter couldn't pass up the opportunity to rub it in to the rest of us.
Oh, no.
Then he made time. He canceled his dinner plans. He canceled everything to
Not
make sure he
only
comes.
that, for the full-time whistle, he came. He wasn't even watching the game with us, but he showed up for full time.
He was just smiling.
What Marco forgets to mention is that the time changed from when we were supposed to do a podcast. So I won't mention any times right now because it's all a mystery. like how the Italian teams mysteriously are able to get kicked out.
What the hell happened?
Holland and Belgium.
What the hell happened this week? What happened?
Asking me?
I mean, from top to bottom, it's kind of crazy if you think back to just a few weeks ago, where we thought we were gonna have 2, maybe even 3 teams finish in the top 8. You remember Milan? They had the opportunity to beat Dinamo. Atalanta almost got a result against Barcelona. Even Juventus, because they beat Man City, there was an opportunity to get into the top 8. And it proved how important it would have been to get there. And then even after, when the draws came, we all sat here and said, okay, you know what? It's unfortunate that we weren't able to win, but at least we didn't get drawn against Real Madrid. At least we didn't get drawn against Manchester City. We got Bayern or we got PSV and Club Brugge. And maybe the teams and the players thought the same thing, because you got to give credit to the 3 of them who knocked us out, of course. And I think they all deserved it on the pitch for the way that they played over 2 legs. But at the same time, it's nothing short of a disaster from all 3, because quality-wise, for what our teams have, we are better. But luckily in football, it's not just the better team wins. It's the team that tries the hardest, that's the smartest, that's wants it a lot more. And I think that could be said from top to bottom about our teams. How's your overall reflection? Inter did very well to be able to get into the top 8. Are you looking at this and saying, thank God, even if the teams were quote unquote easy on paper, you at least didn't have to go through this?
Of course, that was the major thing, I think, in this new format, right? This is the first year, and you know the reality is it's vital to get into that top 8, because you never know what could happen. You know, when you get to the Champions League, all these teams are one of the better teams within the league. Even if they can look inferior, they have a champion mentality, because they're top teams within the league. They're used to winning. And knowing that they're going to face a Milan or face Juventus, they have even more motivation, right? Yeah. To be able to beat those teams and make history, if you may. So anytime an Italian team thinks that it's an easy opponent, you're already starting on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
Mike, what's your overall outlook on this? Because I just want to give an overall picture, and then we'll dive deep. We'll dissect Milan's game. We'll dissect Juventus. We'll go through Atalanta's, and then, of course, Roma. We'll save for the end, because thank God they were able to do it against Porto. But what's your overall outlook?
I think the overall outlook is, Pete, I pretty much agree with you on that sense. I just feel like we, not just us, but the team, the Italian teams that went up, I feel like they underestimated the teams that they went up against. They just expected, okay, we didn't make top 8, but whatever, we got a favorable draw, we'll go through. And when you say stuff like that and already think about the next thing, when you're not even focusing on the opponent in front of you, that's where surprises happen. And at the end of the day, listen, I don't even think the teams that played, they didn't even deserve to go through. We can't even say, oh, Juve were unlucky, Milan were unlucky, Atalanta were unlucky. I think they all got beat fair and square for the most part. You don't think so?
No. All right.
I would say on Michael's point, arrogance is the word that I would use to describe these 3. The arrogance that maybe what Pete is mentioning, overlooking that these teams domestically are important in their field, overlooking that you have to work hard either way and fight and suffer and be focused on two legs. And I feel like when I look back at the first leg, in all three, I could say for all three of them, there was this level of, all right, well, we still got a second leg. Overlooking the importance of that first leg and giving teams hope. That's what bothered me. And while in a sense, I always felt like even if the first legs didn't go the way that I wanted in all three of them, I said, okay, we'll be able to get back. And that's our that's our fault. That's our issue. And I think that to the credit of the other three teams, and I'm going to use this as a general statement, the mentality that all of them showed was incredible. They always wanted to go for it. They always stuck in the match because it could have been very easy for all of them to crumble in their own respects, considering who they're playing against. But that's what you get in the Champions League. This is not... It's so difficult to put your finger on what's going to happen, and you have to remain humble. And that is something that none of us did. Anto, do you have an overall outlook before we get specifics on the team?
My outlook is pretty much almost the same. I want to just add to this. The same way we have the very same difficulty of when you are playing in Serie A, facing smaller teams. This is the same mentality that we actually, unfortunately, we use when we play the teams that are on the paper. They're not worth, monetarily speaking, not even 10% of what AC Milan or Juventus or Atalanta, they're worth it. So the fact that your team is worth a lot more money, that historically has won so many championships, or they have done so much more, and they have sono dei blasoni. In Italian, un blasone is something that everybody been talking about in the last 50, 60 years. It's just really underestimate what you're facing on. And you know what? I was having a hard time even try to recognize in terms of name recognition any one of those players except for Perisic the other day, yesterday. I didn't know anybody of those people. I said, who the hell are they?
I don't think the other teams did either. I don't think our own teams. I don't think we were well prepared for the qualities that a lot of these teams.
That's also the arrogance, Anto.
We are arrogant.
Why does it have to be star name? Why does it have to, you understand?
But that's part of the problem. This is the way Serie A, the newspaper, the journalists, and all of the pundits, they're just portraying you as in other words, you are expected to go through because you're facing this kind of team. And then sure enough, we just downplay what they're capable to do. We don't know who they are. Those are young kids that they came on the top of the palcoscenico. That's what we say it. It's on the stage to showcase what they're capable to do. And sure enough, man, they have a lot of energy.
A lot of talent.
They never stop. They have some talent. And then we got caught with our pants down, and then it's too late.
And guess
it's
what?
Too late.
Guess what? 6 months of working on our ranking, 6 months of some good performances, putting ourselves in the position to be in front and get that coveted 5th spot, because 2 leagues are going to get it. England, we already know had it. Italy did so much work, and we threw it away in 1 week. In 1 week, we threw away all the good work, and it's almost impossible for Italy to get that 5th spot. We don't deserve it. Of course we don't deserve it. The only way is if Lazio or Roma will go on to win the Europa League and they don't finish in the top 4, then we could get a 5th spot, or somehow Inter can go on into the final and Fiorentina in the Conference League. But I would say at this point, we don't deserve it because we were not able to beat our direct rivals. We were not able to, even getting a more favorable draw, we weren't able to put in the proper performances. And there's a lot of people right now who are taking advantage and taking the opportunity to say, oh, look at the Italian teams. Oh, they're a joke. Oh, Italian football is a mess. I don't think that you could take away too much from this. Nothing has really changed from this week to what we've known for the past couple of years. Italian football has a lot of problems. They have problems that we've been talking about forever. When we had a really good year in 2022, 2023, where we had teams in every single final, where we were the top league. Last year, we finished above England in coefficient. Does that mean that Serie A was better than the Premier League? Absolutely not. It's not. So I don't think you could also take away from this and say, oh, everything is garbage, everything is bad. You have to have a balanced approach. You have to look at, in the last couple of years, you have to look at the competition. You have to look at all of this into perspective and then draw your conclusions from there. So I don't think because we don't finish in the top 2, it means that it's a terrible league. I think that we've been hovering between the 2nd and 3rd best league in terms of competition. And hopefully, I pray that Inter, Roma, Lazio, and Fiorentina could make us proud and could regain some of the outlook that the Italian teams will have in the rest of Europe, because guess what? Right now, all the people that don't like Italian football, all the people are hopping on the bandwagon and saying, look how bad it is. So I pray that you're able to face good competition and show a good face to the rest of the league. Where do you guys want to start? Juventus or Milan?
Why don't we start from Juventus?
All right, let's start with. I think it's better to start with Juventus. It's more fresh on my memory. One of the worst second half performances I've ever seen from Juventus. The amount of times this season, though, we've said the difference between a first half and a second half from the team is embarrassing. And I want to give PSV a lot of credit for the way that they played. Vertical, fast. They were not scared. They didn't crumble when Weah scored a goal. They always kept with their same ideas, the same mentality. And it was very clear, if anyone was watching this game, that PSV were going to be the ones to go on and win this match because of the quality that they were showing. Juventus looked dead tired. The substitutions from Motta, I almost ripped my hair out. Because it made no sense how he was about to make the substitutions. Then Weah scores his goal, and then he doesn't make the substitutions when the midfield was dead. Thuram was needed. Nico Gonzalez was dead. Colomwani was dead. And it's like this scaredness or this willingness to stick to your idea before the match and not be able to adapt whatever it is. It makes no sense. And then what pisses me off more than anything is what's said in the press conferences. Koopmeiners has a fever. Okay, is Koopmeiners born with a fever? And if so, why are you not playing Thuram? And then you have the captain of the team, Locatelli, and you have the coach of the team who are saying two complete opposite things. Locatelli says, we threw it away, and then Thiago Motta gets mad and says, I need to hear what he said because we didn't throw it away. I don't agree with that.
I would have done exactly the same thing over and over, right?
And then Thiago Motta says, I would make the same exact changes over again. To me, that might even be worse than the performance that I saw, which is one of the worst performances I've ever seen.
I gave a lot of benefit of the doubt for Motta, saying he's a new coach. He's going to a new, first time he's coaching a big team. It takes time for tactics, but the way he put out that team, the way they played, it made me, the substitutions he made, his post-match comments, it really made me question and kind of lose a little bit of my patience of why maybe he shouldn't be there long term if he thinks like that. If he makes those substitutions, we were saying in the studio, why are you making these substitutions? Why are they playing? They were playing on the back full when they were losing, when they were tied, as if they were winning, and I'm just like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. This is supposed to be Juventus, and they're playing against a PSV. I was so confused and irritated and just why they should be breathing fire, especially from the second leg. They were up and now they're losing, and just the manner of how they were playing, there was no clear ideas. Vlahovic came in way too late. He should have came in way sooner because there wasn't a lot of action going up front. And honestly, this is a big question mark for Motta for me. This is the first time I really, really question him.
You know what's sad? Because I think Mike just said it right. The style of play. Because if Thiago Motta, who has this idea of holding onto the ball and playing your football, if you lose by making a mistake or if you lose by getting outplayed in your football, that's one thing. That's one thing that we could say. It's a young team. They made this mistake. I saw nothing. But truly, I saw nothing. So that just adds on top of, okay, you tried to adapt. It didn't work. It completely backfired. And then even when you saw that it didn't work, you were not able to find a different solution or change from what you have in your mind and being stuck to your players. I mean, what's going on with Yildiz? What's going on? He's isolating one of the young players on the team. It's becoming a theme right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues, I think, on a personal level with a lot of players. Let's not forget also Danilo, who, you saw another center back got injured. I think Danilo would have been
perfect.
Besides being perfect, but
Danilo's a very good defender.
Yeah,
as we speak right now. I don't understand why.
One second. I'm saying you had already a center back there that had experience, that has leadership. Why, you ostracize him? You get him out of this
when
team.
Vega goes down injured, at least you would have Danilo. You don't have to put Kelly.
Exactly. So, my point is, more so to the reference of Yildiz and isolating him and not having him to show what he's been able to do so far, with this year. But, listen, you see the Inter game, Juventus versus Inter, the approach to that game, the energy spent, and his mentality. We were applauding his mentality of trying to continue to fight, continue to win. And a lot of that had to do with Juventus needing that win, I think, ultimately to put themselves in a position to get that Champions League spot. But then you follow that up with PSV, where it was as if, you're looking to calculate the result. Let's just get through. I'm going to utilize my guys, and let's just get to the next stage, and that's that. We have an advantage winning 2-1 at home, and let's just simply go through, possess the ball, and that's that. Not realizing that, hey, on the other side, you have a team that's foaming at the mouth, and they have a lot to prove. And mind you, this is a team that's missing a handful of starters. There's a lot of injuries that they had as well. So we can't argue one thing, right? Mine was sick, or I'm missing my guys. Sure, but so were PSV.
I only say the cup miners thing just to say why would that not be another reason to put Thuram into the match?
And so when it came to it, you could have an approach, but you have to make the adjustment. When you see PSV coming at you in the midfield, obviously tired, you have to be able to make that decision. And I feel like with Thiago Motta, whether it's for personal reasons or whether it's him just being cloudy, because, they're humans at the end of the day. And I think his lack of experience at this high level, lack of experience in the Champions League, and not being willing to take a shot or say, hey, I'm going to own my decision.
Yeah.
That's what ultimately led to Juventus' demise. And then, like you said, at the press conference, for you to say, I'll do this, the same thing over.
That's...
You're pretty much, shooting yourself in the foot, because what you did was poor, and by you not realizing
being
that,
stubborn,
or at least being stubborn, or at least
stubborn,
trying to protect yourself, because ultimately that's what it is. Is, hey, I didn't make a mistake. We didn't do what we were supposed to do. I feel like, hey, it looks bad,
and that's not what a leader does too.
And you need to take control of this team.
Anto, I want to read to you. Because I do think Thiago Motta, I've said everything, but it's also a theme for Juventus in the Champions League is to go out in a terrible manner in the last years. I'm going to read you the last 6 campaigns that Juventus have had in the Champions League. This one, they went out to PSV in the playoff knockout round. The last time, they had a group stage exit. The year before that, they lost to Villarreal in the round of 16. Year before that, they lost to Porto in the round of 16. The year before that, they lost to Lyon in the round of 16. And the year before that, they lost to Ajax in the quarterfinals. So why is this a theme for Juventus that on paper, a lot of those matchups, fans celebrated? They said, oh, this is our moment. Is it a mentality thing? What is it?
I'll tell you what.
Mourinho's quote, P.
It's first of all, Peter said it right before. You don't know which Juventus you're going to get week in and week out. 3 days, 4 days before, they destroyed Inter. Physically.
And mentally.
With attitude. With they were really angry for the game. They said, I want to win this game. On the second half, you saw Juventus like it was a hurricane that Inter could not really fend off. Then you have 4 days to prepare for the game. If you have issues, I think Motta is a very stubborn. That guy, instead of being playing with a chip on the shoulder, I said, hey, listen, this is my first year in Juventus. I want to try to push this team here now to the next thing, given the fact that you just displayed the records of the previous 6 seasons. Instead of doing that, the guy, I think, is stuck up. I think the guy, he has hard time being told what to do. So he would rather to see the team burn by just listening to pundits saying, hey, maybe Vlahovic and what's his name, and Colomani, they can play together on a 4-4-2. Or maybe this can happen. And then you find out after the fact that a cup miner has got a fever, this other guy was not 100%. And the substitution, like you said, were a disgrace.
We were screaming for it thousands of miles away. It was so obvious that they were getting
overrun. For regular
overrun.
people, the coach for Juventus,
you bring Vlahovic on the 90th minute.
That's
you might
horrible.
have a personal problem with him.
But you gotta save yourself too.
But that's right,
Yeah.
Mike. You have to play your team for the goodness of the group.
your job.
The fan. This is not about personally what you guys said to each other. Nobody gives a crap. Your job as a coach is to put Juventus on the position to win and to move on to the next higher ground, to be able to compete and to make the money for the team and to keep the squad and to keep the luster of Juventus at the highest level that Juventus is accustomed in the last 30 years. Now here we are, then all the flashback, I read some of the stuff on the paper that Allegri will never have done something like that.
Allegri got Juventus knocked out of the group stage.
I know.
With Maccabi Haifa.
I know,
so,
but
I read you the stats. Some of those were Allegri's team, some of those were Sarri's team, some of them were Pier. So it's not just, this is, for me, it's even deeper. It's a Juventus problem.
But Marco, justify me you spending $200 million to put this team. I know you monetize a bunch of other players, but you spend $200 million.
Cristiano Ronaldo was in the game against Lyon too. You had one of the best players in the world against Porto, right? Both of them might have been.
$200 million. You are an agent.
Porto. I mean,
it's a lot of money.
But come on, give me a break. And guess what? You know what I hope? Because we're all confused with this new format. We didn't know how valuable the games were. I hope that they look back and in certain games where they were in cruise control, where they didn't think that the games mattered in the 8 group stage, you said, it's so forgiving. Guess what? This shows you how hard it is, and you have to get into the top 8. Those matches matter even more. And you could go through Atalanta, Juventus, and Milan in games where they were in cruise control, where they would have had an opportunity to finish in the top 8, which they didn't overexert themselves in those games. And guess what? You pay now because you have to play Inter, and then it's crumbled in with these 2 matches. So for Juventus, it is nothing short of a disaster. Top 4 is the bare minimum that this team needs to get. And it's a big problem because now Milan, if we transition to Milan, who lost their game in a very different manner with Theo Hernandez, who we're going to talk about. The first game we could say was similar to this Juventus one, the first leg. But the second leg, it was a Milan that was in so much control of the match. And then an episode completely changes everything and basically crumbles and hurts Milan's season with this Theo Hernandez dive. Does everyone agree that this match was basically lost by Theo Hernandez getting a red card?
Yes, and no. I'll tell you the reasons why. First of all, you are AC Milan. You're winning 1-0. The game is on the line. We know it. It's the substitution, the only thing that I question about Conceição. Other than that, even I would cut a slack to Hernandez. The guy didn't. I'm sure he had 30 seconds of stupidity that he did dive, but I would say I'm not looking for any excuse by any means. The ref was too harsh. Nobody from AC Milan, including Theo Hernandez, got up and protested or even actually asked for a penalty.
They don't need to do that, though.
Let me just say it.
Rule,
but this is very bad. A lot of people, I just question. I said, oh my God, look at this guy here. You're going to give a second yellow. Knowing that you give the first yellow, then you're going to give a second yellow for a simulation that he didn't even get up. I said, he hit me or
he doesn't
something.
have to do that.
I see what you mean, Anto, but I would actually take the opposite perspective. And I would say good job on the referee to be able to have the courage to give it in such an important game, because diving should not be part of the sport. Diving is something that I hate to see. You don't often, to what you're saying, there's a lot of referees who do what you just said. I'm not going to give the yellow card. But guess what? The rule is, if you try to trick, you get a yellow card. And guess what? It's the right call. It's the right call, and Theo Hernandez should not have done it.
But it's not even just diving, Anto. Yeah. The players dive all the time, but there's some sort of contact, and they try to overdo it. There was physically not even a touch on Theo. That's simulation. That's even more. So it doesn't matter if he screams for a penalty. By him doing that action without being touched to fool the referee, that's an automatic yellow card.
Mike, I seen much worse, and the second yellow was not given. I seen a lot worse than that.
But we should. Hold on. But that shouldn't even matter. It shouldn't matter what happens in early. It should be the focus on is the right call. For me, it's the right call.
It is the right call.
As mad as it made me, it's the correct call, and I actually give credit to the referees, and I think more referees should be this harsh, because they should set this precedent to a lot of players on, we are going to start cracking down on this. So if you do it, you know exactly what you're going to get into. And Theo Hernandez obviously apologized afterwards, but you agree or you disagree?
No, I mean, listen, it's unfortunate, really, because I see Antonio's point, and I think also the referee, we always talk about not compromising the game or not being the star of the show. And they become the star of the show. I feel like it's, that second yellow, it changed the whole game. So, like, unless it was blatantly, that he was really screaming for a penalty or real. He could have went to Theo and said, "Hey, don't
None of
ever
that
do
shit
that
again. I'll fuck
because
you up."
I'm
Yeah.
not." That's just my personality, because that I feel like you go to with that second yellow, you're screwed.
But this also
Because
one of the
nobody
best
knew what
refs.
was going on.
Pete,
Nobody
this,
knew what
this
was going on.
Marciniak, he coached the Champions League final. So
Who
it's not
cares?
Like a regular ref.
Who
but I'm-
cares?
I'm-
Nobody
I'm-
cares, Mike.
No, but my point is, I'm not
Yeah.
arguing that he gave the yellow card
Yeah.
because
'Cause he
it's
had-
in the
that's
rule
his
book.
job,
If he
yeah.
saw there was simulation, he has every
Yeah.
right to do it.
For
Theo's also another stupid guy for doing that, knowing that you have a yellow card.
it's not-
You don't even attempt to do it. Why? Why are you even attempting to do it?
I agree with
So-
all of you.
So, like I said, it's one of these subjective things. Ultimately, where we are now is Milan got that second yellow, Theo got that second yellow, and it changed the game.
Yeah.
And Milan paid for it.
Marco, this is to
But
say
it was all Milan,
this is,
though.
yeah,
before that.
I know, Mike.
That's why it's annoying. That's why it's frustrating. Because they would have got the job done. Once they got the red card, the momentum.
I'm
totally
not trying
shifted.
to
We
look
don't have
for
to
an
harp on it.
excuse.
We
No, listen,
all-
no,
we
no,
all
no.
agree.
But I want to add a couple other things. You remember in the past few podcasts, we were discussing about a different way of punishing this kind of a behavior. Maybe you give it 10 minutes off, or you just you let the team play with a player less for 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, that's right.
Mike, you
What
don't
can
have to
we?
respond always. Just let him say what
Okay,
he
so
wanted
that's
to say.
number one. Number
Changing more rules of
two, to
that.
finish up, AC Milan, even when the game was tied, they had their chance. They pushed. They did it all the best they can. I mean, Conceição, the only thing that I have to blame it was the substitution of Bartesaghi.
That kid was not
that,
ready.
That was
That
not
kid was
ready.
not
Number
ready.
one. Number two,
Jesus
it was not ready.
Christ.
We have Jimenez. We have the other Jimenez on the bench. Just put the kid. The kid
No, he's
is
not
got.
called up. He's not on the Champions League roster.
It was not?
No.
Oh, okay. So I
Alex
thought that
Jimenez.
we had him available, but we had other players available. Fofana, it should have been put much before. Musa should have been coming out for me. But everybody becomes a coach on the Monday morning after the game. We call it Monday morning quarterbacking. Let me finish, and then I'm done. AC Milan right now, it's a team that you got punched very hard, you got knocked down, and now we have to get up and fight back. It's very unfortunate what happened. We are out, and this is a lesson that I think is gonna be beneficial to the team now, because right now we have to push for that fourth place.
Anto, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Don't you think the lesson has been seen multiple times this season? I could think on. I'll give you two other examples.
By AC Milan, you mean?
Yes, I'll give you
Okay.
two other examples.
Yes.
Because this is what makes me bitter. You could have a moment where Theo Hernandez, he died. Okay, you could have one game. But for me, the problem is that with Milan, it's so many times. The game against Dinamo Zagreb, where you could have finished in the top 8. Musa gets a silly red card. That was the game to qualify to the top 8. Then the first game against Feyenoord, Mike Maignan has a crazy mistake. And again, you don't have the right approach in that game. So for me, it's not just one case. If this is Theo Hernandez, I can almost swallow it and say, you know what? It's unlucky. It's silly. We could all disagree. But it's too many times. It's too many times with this
Marco.
Milan side where you had the opportunity. And I'm almost more mad at the first game with the approach that Milan had, where they did not show up. They did not
didn't.
care. That's the first leg is so important. Yeah. The first leg is where you set the tone for the next match. And the fact that Milan stumbled these 3 different occasions is what makes me more mad.
But look at who they are, those people. Those are the captains. Because Maignan has been a captain, Hernandez has been a captain, Leao has been a captain. Most of those people, Musa is one of the high-caliber players.
Yeah, he's a younger
player.
player.
Yeah, but nevertheless, those are things. How do you teach people like that? Hey, Maignan, watch a shot like that, you're supposed to block it. That shit happens. Okay?
But it's too many times. Anto.
Too many
It's
times.
too many times to be acceptable.
Okay, how do you teach somebody not to get into yellow card / red card situation? How do you teach? What does a coach tell somebody like that? Don't get into the situation. Or what? Then we've been criticizing Inzaghi that he subs everybody with a yellow card. I mean, there is a flip side.
Remember Ranieri with Roma in the game against Porto? He said at a certain point, he told his players, don't even make a tackle. Don't protest. He said the referee is against us. Let's not even try it right now.
You see?
So that does come with experience, and that does come with management. I'm not saying that this is the exact case, but it's just more of a mentality thing. And when you, for Milan, just like Juventus, it's a disaster to be out of Champions League at this point.
But you know,
it's
one thing
it's a disgrace.
I wanted
to
to
be out
cut
of
a
Champions League
slack
at
to
this
AC
point.
Milan. AC Milan fought from the first minute to we were on cruise control until the 50th minute, right?
But not just this game. I'm saying, what about the
I
two
know,
before that?
I know.
What about the two before that?
I usually don't
Mike, Anto.
I don't like usually singling out players, Anto, but I think Theo's one of those players that did almost more harm than good. And I just don't think he's, for me, I liked him in the beginning when he first came. I think his head is too big. I just don't think he's a Milan
He's
player.
been going through a bad
I get
bad
that,
phase.
but you also got to be a professional
I
and
know,
do what you're
I
supposed
know.
to
You've
do.
been paid for that.
You
The
understand?
thing is that they're talking too much about money. Wants to make the same money that
For
Leao
me,
makes
I
and all
don't
the
think
stuff. That's
Milan,
too
Milan
much
and
distraction.
Theo, I don't think they should continue.
I think
I just
Get the highest offer
Pete,
and
listen to me.
part
For
ways.
me, as an AC Milan fan, I'm one of the most sick AC Milan fan in the world. I'm expecting to see AC Milan
all agree
from
on
now
something.
on to just give it a hard out on the Campionato. There is no way that you can relax. Even when you win 6-0, I want to see the 7 and the 8-0. I do not want see anybody relaxing. It's over. Right now, everything is on the line. I want you to see fighting for that 4th spot. And if you're fighting and you get knocked out, by a team that is better than you, that outplays you, that's fine. But if I see an attitude, like Marco described,
They're in big trouble.
then it's a problem.
Listen,
Then I wanted to see the whole thing start from scratch.
Including Conceição.
Listen,
If he doesn't finish top 4, do you get rid of Conceição?
I don't blame Conceição.
But I'm asking you,
No.
if you don't get into the top 4,
No,
And you
I
keep
think
seeing
that
these ups
Thiago
and downs?
Motta is more of a problem as a coach than Conceição. To
listen,
me,
that wasn't my question.
I think
no, I will not sack Conceição.
Whether you get Champions League, whether you don't get Champions League, you're keeping Conceição.
Yes, I would.
First off, Conceição's on a 6-month contract.
That's
so
okay.
this will be the time, if you're going to change, you change now.
We're not
Because
changing
you
it.
need to have,
Time to adapt.
we always say it stems from the top, but the reality is you need to have a plan now from today. What are we going to start doing in the summer? Because there's going to be decisions to be made. The likelihood of Milan getting into Champions League is not high because there's teams ahead of them that all have the same situation.
It's not low either.
It's not low either, but the probability is not in.
You guys think it's?
It's
You
not
guys
in,
don't think
not
it's
in
low
favor.
No,
Anyway,
it's not.
for 4th place?
It's not.
whatever the case might be. So
Best to move on from this.
you already missed out. You missed out on Champions League money for this year by not qualifying in the top 8. Now you get kicked out. That's not good. And then next year you might not even get into Champions League without that 5th spot. So you did a double, more damage than
Double whammy.
you could ever imagine. There's players now that you're gonna have to sell, and you need to make a decision on who are the guys that we want with Milan and who we have to part with. Let's look at even Inter, with Marotta, and you look at Icardi. If we remember Icardi, everybody thought, how the hell can Inter lose a number 9 like that and never do anything? And sometimes you have to get rid of the problem child in order to make sure that the rest, it's like weeds, right? If you have weeds that are growing everywhere, they could be beautiful, but they're going to also create issues with everyone else. So in order to bloom, you need to get rid of certain problems, and you have to identify, what is Milan's objectives. When you pick a coach, you have to go to get a coach, not like Fonseca, that there's already within a contract, hey, if we sack him by this day, we're off the hook. That doesn't look like you're starting on the right foot. So already there's issues that are beyond any player's capability, beyond the coach's capability. There's things that need to be fixed fundamentally that I think, the results have shown that ultimately Milan are not in a good place.
I think Peter.
I'm not agreeing with you, but 100%. I don't agree with you, by the way.
I think Peter actually brought up an amazing point, which is that this is the next few months to find out who's with us and who's against us. That's for Conceição, that's for Milan to describe, but also that within this Milan there is personality issues. There are. That's the reality. And maybe in the past you had to be realistic about your objectives, but maybe in the past, Pioli was much better at handling a lot of these issues. If I think back to one example, which was Pioli saying there was not a single day that I showed up that I didn't have to motivate Theo Hernandez. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem that Pioli just identified. So maybe Pioli overlooked some of that, and he was able to handle these certain players and give them the freedom that they want and just be a better manager. But I think you're absolutely right. From the top, there needs to be a sporting project for Milan, a realistic sporting project that puts Milan first and doesn't just put personalities or great players or great talents. You need to be able to sacrifice, because we just said it now. All three Italian teams, what's the theme? The theme is, just because you're better on paper, just because you're better at kicking a ball, doesn't mean you're going to win. If you don't have that fire, if you don't have that desire, if you're not going to work with the rest of your teammates, you're better off having worse players and young players. But that's a thing that Milan need to come together as a group, as a whole, and decide. So, yes, these next few months are crucial, but they're also crucial to plan for the future.
I said this in a group chat, and I still stand by it. I said, the more I see Milan play, the more respect I give to Pioli and the more flowers he deserves from what he done.
BS.
Because it means even more. There's too many things going on. There's too many egos. Everyone thinks they're better or deserves more than they have, and they're not working hard enough. And things like this has to be removed, just like Peter was saying that, or else you won't see progression. You're going to fall in a vicious cycle of what's wrong.
Yep.
Mike, first of all, everybody over here in this chart over here is overlooking the pressure that comes from the outside.
There's pressure everywhere, Anto, for every team.
Everybody wants
Every team.
Hernandez. Everybody wants
There's pressure
Leao.
at Inter, too.
Everybody
Look
wants
how well they're
Magnan,
doing. They make top
everybody-
eight.
Yeah.
What?
Listen.
That's true, though.
Listen.
You got to say it as it is.
Listen. The soccer today is being played with the money.
For everybody. Not
That
just
was
Milan.
not 20 years ago. 20 years ago was a total different story. Right now, soccer means money. Monetize. You see what they're talking about it? You're going to have to monetize. You're going to have to sell players. You're going to have to do this.
You have to.
Before, you see the shirts
But
that
why are
we
we
have
talking
right
about
now?
before?
There used to be attachment to the shirt.
But what's that relevant
Theo
for now?
Hernandez, you don't have to don't even explain to him, listen, you're wearing a AC Milan jersey. I just hope you know
Yeah, that should be motivation
what
enough.
you have on top of your
Exactly.
skin.
Yeah.
So right now, Theo Hernandez maybe got the 20 phone calls from 20 different teams. I said, don't worry, we got you. Don't worry, just finish up over there and put the best effort that you can. We got your back. This is not what was happening back then. Right now, the soccer is being played on the Russian roulette table. In other words, money talks. Okay?
What does that have to do with Milan's
So,
problem?
It has to do it.
I
All
do-
of this pressure, you can factor that into the behavior of that. What do you think Theo Hernandez goes to management? He hasn't signed the contract yet after they've been working on the contract for 3 months because he wants the same amount of money of Leao. Aren't you happy with what you're making?
Nah, those are two
Maybe you
different
can adjust
conversations.
things like
Two
that.
different
Yes, they are.
conversations.
Give me a break, man.
Anto's definitely right about the different
Give me a
personalities
break.
and the way that you need to handle
I
things.
said if he makes 7, I want to make 6.5, at least 7 like him.
I
Give me a
do
break.
want to give credit to one other piece that's often criticized is Zlatan. I want to give him credit for showing face even when things have gone wrong, because a lot of people said, "Oh, when things are great, okay, he wants to be there." I think that I've seen him change in the past month or two, where I think he's understanding his role. He's understanding you're not a player. So, as a player, you could talk a lot of shit, and then you get to go on the field and score a couple goals, and that's what wins you. It's very different in a role, and I think that's normal for him as this advisor to Milan, where he has to learn his role, and I think that I've seen that from him. He's put his face forward. He's admitted the mistakes. They're trying to get it right, and I hope that they're able to, because Milan deserves to be fighting at the top of the competitions. Let's talk about Atalanta, the last disappointment that we have, and maybe I would say the more disappointing of the three. Because of Milan and Juventus, I don't trust them. They've proven to me that I can't trust Juventus or Milan. They're capable of amazing things, but then they're capable of things that you look at them and you say, this is not the same team. Atalanta has shown me for years the consistency. They usually don't overlook their opponents. They're usually so well prepared for matches. This is one that I think that they really overlooked tactically, Club Brugge. Club Brugge was perfect. Club Brugge tactically was set up so well that it fell right into their hands, the game. They know how Atalanta want to play, and Atalanta prefer actually to play the bigger teams because they could do what Club Brugge do to them. Club Brugge were calm. They hit out on the counter. They're all very good with the ball as well. So they're smart. We saw them before the Man City game where Man City beat Club Brugge to get into the competition. Club Brugge were on like 21 games unbeaten or something like that. So it's not a bad team. But once again, Atalanta get caught out in a game where they should be able to have the quality. The first game, you could argue about the penalty kick, but they didn't even play good in the first game. In the first game, before the penalty kick, which, yes, it wasn't a penalty kick, they overlooked that game as well. And then here, you find yourself against a team that was smart, that lended itself to falling exactly tactically to the opposite of what your qualities are, and you get what you saw.
If you blacked out all the players and you told me which one's Atalanta, which one's Club Brugge, I would have been like, Atalanta, first of all, they had a stinker, but Club Brugge played so well. They played how Atalanta play. They played to their game, and they beat them in both legs. And for the first leg, I was like, okay, whatever. It was a mishap. It happened. They're going to come back in Bergamo. They're going to have fun, blah, blah. Lookman's going to... They scored 3 unanswered goals in the first half, and just when you thought in the second half, okay, maybe there's still time, it's Atalanta out of all the teams, you think maybe Atalanta can still come back. Lookman comes in, he scores. Oh, the comeback's back, you know. Oh, they got a penalty, they're going to score this, they're going to make another.
Did you really think the comeback was on?
If they score that penalty, 100%.
They had to score 3 goals.
That's why Gasperini
If
was
Lookman's,
so angry.
if the penalty went in, I would have put house money. If I'm not a better,
90%, I would say a good 60-70%.
I still didn't feel good about the way that the team was playing.
I felt they're coming back. I was like, this happened. They got to score this penalty.
The momentum was with Atalanta with a penalty.
They were on the back foot already after conceding.
Even
before Club Brugge got the 3-0, it could have been 2-1. Atalanta had the chance.
Yeah, he had a few chances.
Couple chances off the line. So
that was crazy.
It didn't.
That was crazy.
The ball didn't want to go in for them. Obviously, they were attacking. I think Atalanta, the first game, that really, hurt them to lose. If they would have gotten that 1-1, I feel like Gasperini would have been a little bit more calm. He's at times, the same way I feel like Guardiola is arrogant about his style of play and trying to force his way upon a game. Gasperini is the same way. You don't have Hien. You have these second choices as your center backs. You cannot play a high line the way that he plays his high line versus a team that's going to look to counter and beat you. And then they have the speed to be able to beat you. So you have to be a little bit more humble in your approach and understand, hey, we're Atalanta, yes, but during the game, we have to take, the certain moments and be able to effectively beat this team. And I think he was not prepared to do that. He didn't prepare his team to do that. And they played, a very offensive game, but left so much to be questioned in defense. Because Club Brugge could have scored more goals, ultimately. And, unfortunately, the way that they played and the chances that they had, they weren't able to score, more, Atalanta. And it bit them. It bit them, where... They could have, should have, but ultimately couldn't.
Humbled is a good word. Humbled is a very good word to sum up all of our teams.
When
the approach was bad, I think that we overlooked our opponent tactically, also from a player perspective. And it's a shame. It's a shame because these were some teams that especially Atalanta I was excited to see. I said, they play such good football. They were doing great as well to finish in the top 8 position. They played against Barcelona. Anytime they play a big team, I say, I love Atalanta. I love them. They don't calculate. But then when they have these games, these performances, you wish
they suffer.
You see the weaknesses that they have.
Listen, here's the thing. Gasperini is one that how much I love this guy here. It's always been on my highest spot for coaching the game right now in the last 20 years. But his attitude from time to time, he says, oh shit, did he actually say that? He actually trusted Lookman. I mean, for the good and the bad. The guy, he was given the ball to take the penalty. He said, he took it away and somebody else should have taken the penalty. You don't have to come publicly and make a statement like that. The guy's got, we say in Italian we say, non appelli sulla lingua. He's got no hair on his tongue. I don't know if it can be translated. So in other words, whatever is on the top of his mind. Whatever it's going to say, it's going to say it. Whether it's going to hurt somebody, whether it's not going to hurt somebody. I think it was not really professional. It was not really kind to Lookman, given the fact that this guy was not well. He still came in. He scored the first goal. He was giving his heart out. He wound up missing the penalty. everything went wrong. But I will not really single out somebody like him.
The best player.
And just right. And then he won him the champion, the
Europa League.
the Europa League with 3 beautiful
His first
goals.
trophy. Yeah.
I mean, hey, just you can be a little nicer about it, but hey, it was not the first. It's not the first time. It's not going to be the last time.
Yeah.
Papu Gomez was trashed at the same time for other reasons by Gasperini.
And that's why, for how we all say Gasperini is a great coach, great tactician.
Yes.
But as far as a man manager,
Yeah.
he's not going to be able to take a Real Madrid or take a Inter Milan because of his attitude and because of his ability to not, he can't man manage.
He also knows he
doesn't
can
know
get
how
away
to-
with it. I think he knows he can get away
He's
with
been
it.
given
at
carte
Atalanta.
blanche.
Even
He's
to
been
say-
given
he
carte
makes-
blanche. The
He
Percassi said,
he
do
makes
whatever
the
you got
club
to do.
so much money, and he's the reason why they're able to challenge. So he knows he's bigger than any player. In a lot of other places, in any of these big teams, it's easier for them to replace a coach than it is to replace a superstar player, for example. I think that there's a lot of deep things to this one. I think it's very clear that Lookman is going to leave Atalanta. He tried to force a move. Yeah. He didn't show up to training before their game against Real Madrid. He wanted to leave for a while. There was a gentleman's agreement that he was going to join PSG for a certain fee, and then the terms changed and all this and that. So that's also the backstory, and I think Gasperini, this was his way to throw a little punch and say, all right, you know what? Guess what? You're bad at this for as great as you are. Lookman's always been, if not one of my favorite players. If not my
nice
favorite
guy
players.
too, even off the field. He never
Absolutely.
rams his mouth. He doesn't say anything.
For me, Lookman is
quiet.
Lookman is a superstar.
It's a professional.
He's
It's
one
a
of those
very good
There's
professional.
always the big saying, he's worth the price of admission to a stadium. He's that player for me. I turn on the TV to see Lookman,
And no drama from
and
him.
I think
drama.
that there's two separate ways to see this though. I think that Gasperini, absolutely, I do agree that it's harsh and unnecessary, and it almost seems like something that you would say in a locker room to a guy. But at the same time, I think Lookman also has to take responsibility. And if he did take the ball away from somebody, he says that the designated penalty taker gave it to him.
the opposite. Yeah.
But that's not the full story, because Gasperini said there's 2 designated players.
De
above him.
Catelare was
so
one.
if CDK and Retegui both told Lookman to take it, that's one thing. But you should also listen to the coach. If the coach tells you that this is the player that's got to take the penalty, that guy has to take the penalty. So from that perspective, you also have to understand that. And if you look at Lookman's penalties,
Yeah, it's bad.
they're pretty
It's not
bad.
good. It's not
He's
good.
they're either perfect and in the top corner, or they're pretty poor. But that's neither here nor there. Lookman is an incredible player. I wish that this didn't come out to be talked about, because
way
I
it
think
came out is
part
bad.
of a team. We're watching Atalanta's growth over the last years. It's amazing to see them at this point. Part of becoming a great team is keeping some of this also inside of your locker room.
Yeah, you need to. I think it's always you could have lashed out at him,
on the locker room.
in the locker room and do everything, but that
But not
stays
the-
in the
yeah.
locker room.
I'm afraid that
Not
this
the
could be
press
the end of a
conference.
cycle, Pete.
Because
This could be the end of a
it-
cycle
it-
for Atalanta.
It could,
to me.
but also I think for even other players coming to Atalanta, they're gonna have this in their.
That's
in their
right.
head to say,
That's
hey,
right. I said,
this
look
guy
who-
treats
look who's
his
gonna be my
players like
coach.
this,
He has a
doesn't
track
look too
record
good.
now. He has a
So
track record.
that's something to put. And then ultimately, even though it might seem that they're far away for a Scudetto, they're technically still in it. Like if both Inter and Napoli, the way they've been playing as of late, nobody seems to want to win. You need to have this team riled up and ready to go for the Campionato. You got kicked out of Champions League, fine. But you need, as a coach, you need to say, hey, we play like shit, but we have a job to do.
Exactly.
And at least,
Be professionals.
to focus
That's
on
all,
that.
that's
So
all they
it's-
have to fight
it's
for
scary.
now too.
And
They're out of
guess
Coppa
what?
Italia.
It could crumble.
Yeah.
It's very easy to
I
for
wanted
that,
to see,
for
the
that
next
locker
2-3
room
games
to-
is going to tell us the truth.
And guess what? They also had a terrible approach in the first Super Cup game. Their best opportunity to win a trophy, the first Super game against Inter, was an embarrassment,
Yeah.
the way that they played. So guess what? You start to be judged on, and yes, we could look at the history of Atalanta and say everything that they're doing is a success. But at a certain point, you want to make that step up, and you want to be a serious team, and you want to build on top of the trophies that you have. So it's unfortunate. Let's talk about the positives. Let's talk about Roma. Thank God they were able to get their job done against Porto, a game where Dovbyk went out injured just before. He was not even able to be on the bench. What else can we say? But Paulo Dybala, when he plays football, he is the essence of what the sport is about. You don't need to, Antonio loves to say this all the time, you don't need to teach him what to do. You can't even tell him what he's got to do. He sees things that no coach, nobody else on the pitch is going to be able to see, but you have to put him in the position to succeed. And it's so beautiful that on top of Ranieri coming back and saving Roma, because at one point they were 2 points above relegation, is that he kept Dybala at Roma. He was going to leave in the summer. He almost left in January. If Juric would have stayed, he was going to go to Galatasaray. he's pulled on the strings, and they got the job done against Porto because of Dybala's quality. And I freaking pray they're going to have to play Athletic Bilbao or Lazio in the next round. But how beautiful would it be if this Roma side can try and push for Ranieri to help him, maybe get a trophy before he goes?
I mean, even before this game started, Porto scored first, and I was like, oh, my God. I was like, this week's can end sooner, Everyone's getting eliminated. But, yeah, surely enough, they came back. They played great. And Ranieri, man, I'm going to be honest. When he first got assigned, I was like, I don't think he has what it takes. Yeah.
I thought we all sat here and loved it.
I wasn't big. I wasn't huge on the idea. I wanted a younger coach with newer ideas. That's what I said.
I thought none of us disagreed.
No.
I thought we all liked it.
Not that I disagreed. I just thought there were better options.
Okay.
I didn't say, I don't like. I was just go for younger. Go for a younger approach.
First of all, none of us came up with the right idea for Roma. It was the Comandante.
Gaetano.
Gaetano Messina.
Yeah, give him credit for that.
But we all agree. I mean, maybe not Mike, but it made sense. It made a lot of sense.
But now the way he's playing, doing incredible. Depending on how this season ends, would you guys want to see him extend at Roma?
No, he's going to be the technical director. Yeah. He's going to stay.
I'm saying if they offer it to him.
As a coach, I don't think so. He doesn't want to do that. He said that this is going to be my last year coaching.
After a magical season, maybe it's even more of a reason to retire,
retire.
Everything
is possible. Don't get me wrong.
They went the Europa
and by the
League.
way, people want to make fun of Roma. Look back in the history of the last couple of years. Roma's saving us in their coefficients. Yeah. By the way,
European finals.
By the way, for everybody that wants to laugh at Roma from time to time, guess what? It's thanks to Roma that Italy has been able to get more spots, that Italy has made up a lot of coefficient points. Roma have in recent years taken Europe so serious. And it's a thing that I love about them is that they valued the competition. They won the first ever Conference League. They went to the Europa League final where they were unfortunate. In the past, the Champions League, what they did under Di Francesco as well. I love that this club values the European competition. It's good for Serie A. It's good for our outlook. They put on a good brand of football. And I don't know what to say about Roma. Do I think that they can win the Europa League? Personally, I don't think that they have the quality. But if you keep Dybala healthy, if you can get this group to do something special, then who knows? It would be written in the stars for Dybala, who's going to leave the club, for Ranieri to come out of retirement. They can make a movie on it if Ranieri's able to win a trophy with this team.
Listen, Dybala, it's the expression of the purity of the soccer. The way he touches the ball, the way he passes the ball, the way he shoots the ball, the way he stops the ball, the way he moves with the ball. This guy is like a god. I mean, he kind of reminds me of, Cassano or Messi. Those are the players that when they have the balls...
Two complete opposite players.
Sono dei palleggiatori puri. In Italiano we say those are pure ball handler that they never panic, and they don't have to look at the ball when the ball is on the floor. They're looking around.
It's glued to them.
It's glued to them.
Look at the goal that he scored. He had 4 or 5 guys in front of him.
Beauty.
He's a natural. He's just a natural talent.
He touches with the left. Again, another little tap with the left. To the left, he saw the little opening. Boom. Big left, and the goalkeeper was out of commission. So it's not going to be another Dybala in the next 40, 50 years, or another Cassano, Messi, or whatever. True. And now what we're trying to do, like you just said it before, let's keep those guys over here because it can only be beneficial to the Serie A, to some of the some of the Italian teams. AC Milan. I wish we had Dybala on AC Milan, but we have Joao Felix. I like Joao Felix. Joao Felix is another one that is not as good as Dybala, but he's got a lot of quality. That I just said it before. Is the way he touches the ball, the way he moves, the way he does everything. Hey, I know. Wish you had him.
Dybala, I've said it for years. He's still the best player in Serie A.
He's a genius.
He's still the best player in Serie A.
Best player in Serie A.
He is. You could argue consistent injuries. But I'm saying if you just talk about football intelligence, if you talk about pure quality and also performances too, because it's not that he's a player that shies away in big games. No, not true at all. He is the best player in Serie A.
He would be the best player in Serie A if he wasn't injury prone.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the injuries.
Now.
That comes down to a player that you could rely on all the time, right? But I'm saying pure talent, even attitude. Even his attitude is amazing. He is the best that we have.
He is.
You can't rely on him. You can't build the team around him anymore, unfortunately, for a top team. But he also would not be playing at Roma if you could rely on him week in and week out.
Unless
He wouldn't be. No.
Imagine-
he would be playing at Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Wait a moment.
would be.
Unless you picture Dybala playing with Totti, Cassano, and I don't know,
20 years ago.
Pruzzo. I don't know. You
That's
guys are
too
too
many
young.
geniuses.
So before.
Too many
Mamma mia.
geniuses on the field.
That's what I'm saying. No, those three geniuses, they can make your head spin 360 times.
How much would you pay for that ticket to watch them?
Oh, a lot of money. I will just quit my job and
You
move to
already do
Rome
that.
and move to Rome and collect cans. Whether even be a garbage man, I would have done anything for something.
All right,
like
guys.
that.
Let's hope for better days. Let's hope that the Italian teams can put on performance, and let's hope for Lazio, Roma, Fiorentina, and Inter to go far in their
The
competitions.
draws tomorrow.
Draws are
Coming up.
tomorrow. We'll
But
keep
let's
you
not go
updated.
too
Make
far.
sure you
Let's hope for
follow
Inter.
on,
I just if
on
Inter
our
ever
social
slip
medias.
up, it's okay. Nobody's gonna be
All
crying
right,
to
guys. Thank you
I'm
for
not
watching.
gonna be crying.
Like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you
Ciao,
soon.
guys.
Ciao, ragazzi.